Hello and welcome to the Joinery Business Podcast. If you own and operate a business that makes kitchen cabinets, joinery, furniture, doors, commercial millwork, shop fitting, anything like that, then you're in the right place. Here we explore all things related to running a business just like yours, so that you can dramatically improve your business and achieve those sometimes elusive things like wealth and freedom and profit, time, all those wonderful things that you probably wanted when you first decided to start a business, but maybe have been a little elusive to you up until now. My name's Bruce Poling. I'm the director and founder of the Joinery Coach, and we've been helping joinery businesses for the past 20 years or so grow their business into these wonderful, thriving, profitable enterprises that you're probably trying to turn your business into right now. And in these podcasts, we're going to share all of those wonderful learnings that we've gathered along the way and share them with you, and hopefully we can have a chat about it as we go and have some fun along the way also. If you find these things interesting and want to learn more, please connect with us. We've got a Facebook group called the Joinery Business Hub, or you can go to thewealthyjoiner.com and you can learn more and get some more information there. Without any further ado, let's jump into today's awesome podcast topic, and I hope to chat with you soon. Hello, and welcome to the Joinery Business Podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, which most of you will be because this is our very first episode, just a few little tips. This podcast is for joinery business owners that have businesses that make kitchen cabinets, joinery, furniture, shop fitting, anything along the lines of small woodworking or even large woodworking, manufacturing, those sorts of businesses. We're here to help you grow your business. My name is Bruce Poling. I've been running the Joinery Coach for close to 20 years, and we've been helping joinery businesses just like yours scale and grow and create all that wonderful stuff that maybe has been a bit elusive. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the general elements of your business and the things that you need to make sure are sort of foundational elements of your business. Think of it like the foundation of a building. You can't really have a successful building. You know, the windows and the walls and the doors and the ceiling and the roof and all that is great. But if the foundation of the building is no good, the building will fall over. So your business is very much the same. So today, I thought what we do is we start out just simply by talking about foundations of business to give you a little bit of an idea what to look for in your business and maybe some areas that you can focus on to improve. If at any point you want to get more help, join us in our Facebook group called the Joinery Business Hub. Just click join, answer a few little questions, and I'll let you in. It's a lot of fun. It's free, and there are all kinds of people in there that are in the same position you're in, where we're just having a chat and exchanging ideas. And also, we'll be talking about some of the conversations in these podcasts where we can share ideas and actually interact live. So, welcome to the podcast, and let's jump right into it. Oh, the other thing I thought I'd mention is that often we post the podcasts on YouTube. So this one, I do have a presentation that I'm following, and I'll post this on YouTube if you'd like to follow along and see some of the slides and the visuals that we're talking about here today. All right, so let's jump right into it. The foundations of your joinery business. So typical joinery businesses are, businesses that are anywhere from, 2 to 3 or 4 employees up to 100, maybe 200 employees, anything sort of in between. Quite often you've got a CNC machine or a couple of CNC machines, an edge bander, various other types of machine around you. Driven by software, you draw the software, you draw the joinery in the software, and it basically gets sent to the CNC machine and gets processed from there. And there's all kinds of things about a business like this that we need to get right. So let's talk about them. First of all, why would you want to hear from me? Well, certainly won't go into the boring details, but I've been doing this for quite a while. And I guess the one thing that I bring to the table for a lot of people is I've really had the luxury of seeing and working with hundreds, maybe even thousands of business owners like you. And what that's given me is not only a really broad knowledge and experience, but the ability to sort of peer into many businesses and see what the common denominators are in the successful ones. And a lot of times I bring that to the table for you. We do this, of course, with many different ways. I work quite often. I'm working hands-on right in the factory, hands-on in the office with the business owner, the marketing team, the pricing team, the whole gamut of it. So my foundations here are not just around production or just around marketing. There are There are they cover all areas of your joinery business, and we're not missing anything. And the one area that we know is true is that the longer you've been in business, the greater chance you have for success, because that knowledge and skill and experience, we actually want to leverage that and utilize that to your advantage. We know that a lot of people that are in business over a period of time start to sort of go the other way. You start to feel like maybe you've got too much at risk, whereas in the first couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years in business, those first 2 or 3 years, quite often you're taking risks. You're putting in an enormous amount of time and taking a lot of risks because you don't really feel like you've got much to lose. But after 3 or 4 or 5 years, you start to feel like you want to take less risk because you've got more to lose. And of course, the less the risk you take, the less the gain you get. So, sometimes people just simply get stuck in business. And what we know is if you get stuck and you don't do things new and add new things to the business, pretty soon the business is going backwards and everybody else is going past you. So that's a real quick sort of rundown on where we're going. But let's talk about growth. The word business growth is something that's used often, most often misunderstood. Let's be honest. A lot of people think business growth is more sales. And I have to tell you that we've experienced more businesses that have collapsed or come very close to failure because of too many sales. Because in some cases, sales are easy, particularly if it's the wrong sales or unprofitable type of a sale. So we really need to make sure that whatever you're bringing into the business, you can do comfortably and sustainably. So let's talk a little bit about what this means. We know that most people start a business for a reason. It might be that you want to have more time with your family. It might be you want to have more money. It might mean you want to have more freedom to travel the world, whatever it is. But most people have some sort of a vision in their head as to what the business that they're going to start and take an enormous amount of risk compared to being an employee. Most people have an idea what that business is going to give them that the employment situation didn't give them. Now, unfortunately, like I said earlier, a lot of times after a number of years, we find that the business has actually taken that away from you rather than give it to you. So we want to identify what that is. We have a tendency to call that true wealth, and everybody defines it differently, whether it's more time, more freedom, more money. But ultimately, you want to create a future for yourself that is going to be better than if you were employed by someone. We also know that quite often business owners give 60, 70, 80 hours a week of their life to the business. And all they do is they feel like they're giving to the business the whole time. And if that goes on for too long, then of course you end up being affected by stress and you burn out and the business fails. And, the business can keep going even though it's failing. You don't have to actually close the business down to be failing. You can keep going for 30 years and never achieve much. So failure is defined many different ways. But we have to get the business to a point where you feel like you're receiving something from it, so that then you can feel like you're giving something back, and then you gain this freedom that you're after. That's sort of the cycle that we try and help business owners get through. But let's talk about some of the foundations of business. And we've identified 9 main foundations. And our coaching program, the Joinery GPS program, is founded around the 9 pillars that we talk about here today. So the GPS program, if you're interested in learning more about that, just jump on to the wealthyjoiner.com, or like I say, jump into the hub or onto our website and you can learn more. But let's talk a little bit about the 9 foundations. And they're not that complicated. They're basic and fundamental, but they're critically important to the success of your business. The number one foundational area that we find is just simply marketing. Most people in this sort of an industry where you're running a joinery business are tradespeople that have never actually been taught anything about marketing or how to create an attraction-based system or how to take advantage of social media or paid advertising. We hear a lot of people say, oh yeah, I tried to boost a post on Facebook. I put a picture of my favorite kitchen and I boosted that post and said, if you want a kitchen, contact us, and it didn't get anything. So that social media advertising doesn't work. We hear that time and time and time again. And of course that won't work, because posting pictures of your kitchens is what 99.9% of everybody in the industry does. And that's not really what your customers or your potential customers are looking for. They're looking for things like, what was the reaction of your last customer when they worked with you? Were they happy? Were they satisfied? Those sorts of things is really what they're looking for. They're looking for how will it be when they interact with you? Will it be a good experience or a bad experience? Those sorts of things. So you really need a good foundational marketing system that brings in your A-grade clients without you needing to go and sell to them. Selling is what we call hunting. Now, I grew up in Canada. I'm living here in Australia now. Hunting in Canada is something that a lot of Canadians do, but I can tell you it's hard, it's difficult, it's awkward, and you have to kill something. And that's no fun for anyone. So when we're talking about marketing, it's not about hunting, it's really about attracting. And when we talk about attracting, we're not talking about throwing this big net out into the ocean or hunting down animals. We're talking about, you can imagine being the big grizzly bear at the top of the creek and the fish are just jumping into his mouth. That's what an attraction-based marketing system does. And they're the right fish. So marketing is critical and it's important. And quite frankly, once we get your marketing right and we're driving A-grade clients to your door, everything else gets way easier. So that's the first sort of foundational element that we focus on. The next one is pricing, because obviously if we bring A-grade clients to your door and your pricing system that you're using kind of screws it up from there. If you've got great clients coming in asking you to do the work, and then your pricing system doesn't guarantee profit. Your pricing system has to give you 100% confidence that your business will be profitable if you win the work. And you need to know in your pricing system the cost of materials, the labor, and that you're covering your overheads so that when you do win the work, you'll make profit. And when you do win the work, you can actually just pass this quoting bit of information on to your production team and they can do it without having to figure out what are the materials, how much labor did you assign, those sorts of things. So winning work is great, but if you pass on to production and ask them to figure it out from there, that doesn't necessarily help your production team too much, right? So you've really got to be able to make profit in your pricing system. We implement what we call a cost plus pricing system. And with some of our past clients, it's the simple pricing system has turned their business around because it's guaranteed that we know our costs. And once we know our costs and they're accurate, and then we mark up from there, that's actually that's the profit that the business is going to make. It's not, the goal isn't necessarily to be profitable in each job. You probably should be, but the goal really needs to be profitable in business, because you can be profitable in each job, but still lose money in business because we haven't considered our overheads. So, making profit in the business and being able to hand on information onto production when that job gets accepted is critically important. The third area that we really focus on is production, because looking back on it, obviously marketing can bring great clients to your door and pricing can price the work and create the information you need. But then if you give it to production and they screw it up, then you lose money as well. And you get unhappy customers and the business starts to struggle. So, when you do win work and it goes to the factory floor, you need to make sure that it's delivered, installed on time, no defects and no callbacks. And what you actually estimated was actually what was done. So the materials from your estimate, is that the materials that manufacturing actually took to build the job? The labor that was identified in your pricing, was that the amount of time that it took in machining and assembly and all those sorts of areas? And if not, the two departments, being production and pricing, need to communicate with each other so that you can make some adjustments next time. We don't want to have this flood of incoming customers winning work and then the tap kind of gets turned off at production. We really want this flood of work or this flow of work going from production to the customer and then paid. Hopefully that's making sense. So the fourth foundation that we talk about is business strategy. Most people, if I was to ask them, where do you want to be in 3 years, or what do you want your business to look like in 3 years, you'll come up with something. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate into action. So business strategy is important, that you know what that strategy is going to be. What's even more important, though, is you have accountability tasks to achieve that strategy you've just defined. So business strategy, of course, is the starting place, but then we have to put that into an action plan. And if you're not good at it, somebody has to hold you accountable to achieve that outcome. So business strategy is, very much like, a sporting team saying, we've got to get better in these areas. We're not good defensively and we're never going to win the championship. So you'll focus on getting better defensively and the goal is to win the championship. So business strategy is obviously very important. What are we up to? The fifth foundation that we want to talk about really is around your product mix. And we talk about product mix because the reality is you have a manufacturing business, and your manufacturing business very likely has capabilities that you're not tapping into right now. And we also know in the industry or the market of built-in joinery, where you are completely reliant on so many sub-trades before you going in to install your joinery, you have so much outside of your control in relation to start dates very often. Renovation work is obviously a little easier with this because you kind of control most of that type of work. But when you're dealing with builders, you've got the flooring guy, the roofer, the tiler, all those other trades that are in there before you that have to line up and do their job on time before you can get your job in the time that it's supposed to go in. So built-in joinery in new builds is a bit of a problem because one of the success factors in business is you need to have the ability to scale your business. And when so many other people are limiting that ability to scale, it's a bit of a problem. So all we do is we look at your product mix and say, what else can you be doing in your business? It's much like a coffee shop. You don't just make flat white. You make, 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 different types of coffees because you can. And that's what we need to do with your joinery business is to say, if your CNC machine or any of your machines are sitting idle for 30, 40, 50, 60% of their time, what can they be doing that isn't necessarily the core product that you're building, such as maybe flat packing or office furniture or children's clothing boxes, something that you can be doing that isn't the same type of product that you're doing, that will generate more wealth and actually utilize your machines. So product mix is a key element that we look at, particularly with joinery businesses. The next key strategy that we look at is, what is your customer experience? Now, we're talking about a number of things here when we talk about customer experience, not just, hey, did you enjoy working with us after it's finished? That, of course, is getting some feedback about your customer experience. But what we really want to know is, with each customer, do you know what experience you want them to have? And are they actually having that experience that you want them to have? Mapping that through each customer and making sure that the experience that you want them to have is the one they're having is important. But it's also important that every single customer that you work with, you do know what their experience is. If you're only getting maybe 1 out of 10 clients are giving you some feedback, then there's 9 clients that you don't know what their experience was. And it's going to be good or bad. And you need to know whether it's good or bad. And if it's good, of course, you want to be able to pass on some praise and some high fives to your team for doing a great job. Or you want to figure out what the bad is and then correct it so that the next customer doesn't have that same bad experience. But customer experience is critical. You really want to make sure that your customers are having great experiences, and you also want to know if they're not. The next area that, of course, is critically important is your financial controls. And for some reason in this industry, we meet so many businesses when I ask them, when was the last time you look at your monthly P&L? Some people say not for a long time. Some people say we look at that every year. But your profit and loss is essentially like if you think of it like the dashboard of your car, it's a live document that tells you what's happening in your business right now. And the reality is, if you don't know what's happening in your business right now, so if you don't know your numbers, you really don't know your business. And the reason that's a problem is because it's impossible to make good business decisions if you don't know what's happening at the core of your business. So we need to have dynamic financial results being put into your financial system. And then we need to be able to analyze those results, at least on a monthly basis, to say, how did last month go? Otherwise, what's happening is you're losing money and you don't know it, or you're doing exceptionally well in an area and you don't know it, and you don't know how to repeat that because you're not really looking at, what were the results of what we just did. So financial controls are important. It's also, of course, important to have budgets and forecasts and try and keep everybody to stick within the guidelines that you've set forward. It's a strategy that you want to put in place in your business. We're a strong supporter of the profit first methodology. In fact, everybody in our Joinery GPS program gets enrolled in the profit first methodology and is taken through it, because if you've not read about profit first, I highly recommend you download at the very least the ebook and read it. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more, jump onto our website. You can go to the wealthyjoiner.com, and we can connect and I can teach you a little bit more. But Profit First is just essentially says nobody actually has a cash flow problem. What people actually have is a cash management problem. And we teach you how to manage your cash better so it's available when you need it. So financial controls are very important. The next foundational area that we know is critically important is the culture of your business. We're talking about culture. We're talking about your team and how they feel about being at business and in your business and helping you grow it. You're not going to grow your business alone. You know, one single person cannot take a manufacturing business and grow it. You're going to need your team to do that for you and with you. So the reality is we have to have a really strong, positive, dynamic culture in your business amongst your team, amongst your suppliers, amongst your customers. The culture of your business really needs to be conducive to the business succeeding. And that's comes down a lot to leadership. I like to not use the word leadership. We've created another word called influenceship. And the reason that I've created that word is because I actually believe that leadership is a little bit disengaging. It's more like, when I say leadership, quite often people think, well, lead by example. So I'll go off and do something and you just copy me. Well, that's not leadership. Leadership is about inspiring people to do great things, inspiring people to do great work without you having to tell them all the time what to do it. We want to sort of convince people that, maybe we need to move a mountain because it's going to do something great, and then just get out of their way and let them do it. So culture is extremely important, and business is about creating awesome teams and inspiring them to do great work. So culture in joinery business traditionally is not so good because, quite often it's do what you're told and then come back to me when you have a question. So culture is really, really important. We really want to inspire people that if we ask them, we need to walk over hot coals to get this job done, they'd be willing to do it. That's really what we want. Not that you're going to ask people to walk over hot coals, but that, you get the idea. And the ninth most important driver that we've identified in business is innovation. So innovation is important because if you don't make sure that you're regularly keeping up with things, with new ways of running your business. We look at great business management systems that take away a lot of the labor and the burden out of the core of the business. We look at, obviously CAD/CAM systems that you're not having to program the machine anymore. These are all innovation, in our industry. And if you don't keep up with innovation, eventually you'll be a little bit like Kodak. Those of you that know Kodak, you remember back when Kodak kind of said, no, we're good. We don't need to print on that digital stuff. We're going to keep printing on paper. That digital thing is really just a fad, and so Kodak was a multi-billion-dollar business that virtually went bankrupt, just simply because they didn't focus on one core foundation of the business, which is innovation. Everything else about Kodak was going pretty well. So you need to stay up with the crowd. You need to be able to keep in front of them. And if you fall behind, it's a long road back. And using Kodak as an example, they're coming back now, but it's been a long, hard, expensive road for them. A lot of people that we work with, I shouldn't say a lot, but certainly we do work with some businesses that don't have software drawing their kitchen. So there's no cutlass being created. They don't have a CNC machine. They have no automation in their business. And they're going, well, how are we going to make this business work? And the reason that it's so difficult for them is because they're so far behind, what it takes today in a business like this to stay up with the trends. So, it's important that you stay innovative and you stay on top of things so that you never get behind. You're always on top of new ideas and you're thinking sort of outside of the current box a little bit into what's the next thing. So those are the 9 drivers: marketing, pricing, production, strategy, product mix, customer experience, financial controls, the culture of your business, and innovation. Those are the 9 drivers of creating a strong foundation for your business. We know that sometimes it's all about time. When we talk about these things, a lot of business owners go, well, that sounds great, but I just haven't got time to implement anything. If you remember back, I said nobody has a cash flow problem. People have a cash management problem. The reality is nobody has a time management problem either. Nobody is time poor. It's a fallacy to even think that. What we do have in many cases is a task management problem because you have the exact same amount of time available to you as I do. And everybody on the face of the planet has the same amount of time. You can't manage time. but it's totally within your control to manage the tasks that you do within the time that you have. So two things can happen. You can either be trying to be doing too many tasks in a set period of time, or the tasks that you're doing, maybe you're not being done efficiently and they're taking too long to complete. And we can help you solve those problems, but you've got to identify that it's going to be one or two or maybe both of those issues at hand. Not that you need more time, because you're never going to get more time. Unfortunately, unless something happens in the time-space continuum somewhere, and we learn something different about physics, we're not going to be manufacturing time anytime soon. So we have to look at how we as people are going to do something different in the time we have. And we also know that once we do start working on, the tasks that need to be done to improve the business and the performance of the business, we know that once you start getting very serious about fixing the first most important thing in business, and the second and the third, and you do it in a real strategic way, your business kind of hits a turning point where things start to feel a little bit easier. It's a little bit like going to the gym. You go for the first couple of weeks and you go back home, nothing happens. But if you keep going for 3, 4, 5 months, pretty soon you start to feel pretty good. Pretty soon your shirts are fitting a little bit looser and your pants are a little looser, and you start to feel pretty good with yourself. But that doesn't happen without a sustained period of time where you're actually doing the right things. One of our clients here in Melbourne, Curve Living, has done just that. He's dedicated himself to improving the things that he needs to in his business. And within the course of about 12 months, we turned a business around and profits had dramatically improved. And the wonderful thing is now he was able to purchase all the fancy machinery and software and all that sort of fun stuff that makes a business like his viable and sustainable and competitive in the marketplace. That's when business starts to get fun. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the problems are gone, because we've now introduced a whole new set of problems for the business. But the problems that we're solving here turn the business into a sustainable entity, whereas the problems we were solving before were the business is unsustainable and it can't be competitive. So we knew that there was never going to be any future for the business the way it was then. So within each of those 9 foundations, we know that there are multiple areas that need to be activated. Marketing has a whole gamut of things, from social media marketing to paid advertising, to your website, to landing pages, to funnels, to email sequences. There's a whole series of things that you do in marketing. The same thing with pricing. Of course, there's a whole series of things within pricing, from handing over from sales to pricing to closing rates, those sorts of things. There's all sorts of things within each of those 9 foundations. It's a little bit like if we identify that you need a better pricing system, we kind of open up the drawers and pull out of those drawers what you might need to do within that area to fix your business. And each business is different. We analyze each business differently. And I would suggest that from this podcast, what you might want to do is think about those 9 areas of business, nine foundations. There is no difference really in one joinery business here in Australia to one in the United States or Canada or Europe. The businesses are essentially the same in their foundational elements. Each business is different in who runs it and what you make. But really, when you break the business down, those 9 foundations exist in every business. The difference is, in each business, you might need something different, because you might be doing marketing exceptionally well, but your pricing is not doing so great. And that'll be different for your business. So we know for sure that when you work on those foundations and you improve the right one at the right time, and you do that in a sequence that is the right sequence for your business, you start feeling like the business is improving. You can move on to stage 2 after you've done all those 9 foundations, but that's a different podcast altogether. Once we get into continuously improving, because you've got your 9 foundations working exceptionally well, that might take a year or 2 in some cases. It might not, depending how quickly you want to work. But stage 2 is then getting on to continuous improvement of your business. And that'll be another podcast. So hopefully that's been some help to you, talking about the foundations of business and the 9 areas that you might want to look at in your business to determine where might you need some help or where are you doing well. And if you're looking for some more help, please feel free to reach out. Like I say, go to our free Facebook group, the Joinery Business Hub. That's a free Facebook group. You can just click join and we'll let you in. Or you can reach out to us at thewealthyjoiner.com. And I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. We look forward to being of service, and hopefully these podcasts are interesting and helpful to you. We have a theory. We want to be useful more than interesting. So if it's interesting, we're grateful, but we want to be useful. So let us know if you're useful. Join our group, the Joinery Business Hub, and we'll have a chat. It's a wrap for our podcast today. Have a great day. We'll chat again soon. Well, thanks for listening to this podcast at the Joinery Business Podcast. We'll continue to work hard to bring you useful and relevant topics you can use in your joinery business today to bring about positive change, increased profit, increased time, all those wonderful things. If you'd like to learn more about anything we've talked about or covered in this episode, please jump into our Facebook group at the Joinery Business Hub. Just ask to join and we'll let you in. No problems at all. If you're not a Facebook kind of person, we totally understand. Easy solution. Jump onto our page at thewealthyjoiner.com and we can help you out with whatever you need help with. Easy to connect. I look forward to hearing from you and helping you in any way we can to grow your business and create the wealth and freedom you deserve. I'm your host, Bruce Poling. Have a great day. Peace out.